Quantum Physics 101 continued. It just felt wrong, off somehow, like where I was sitting, or maybe how I was sitting was just off, wrong. I tried to call the sanctuary to my mind, and the image came slowly, as if reluctant to completely coalesce. I could almost feel the pillow beneath me when someone in the room shifted in their chair to my right. It wasn't loud, but it was enough to break my concentration. I inhaled sharply and kept my eyes closed. The sanctuary came more firmly and clearly into my mind. I could see the lid on the rug before me as if I was watching from about a foot in front of me. It was weird. I felt dislocated and uncomfortable, but held my gaze steady on the lid. Slowly, I could sense something happening in my vision. The room seemed to darken imperceptibly, a cloud-like form almost beginning to take shape above the lid, when Farley sneezed. My eyes flew open and locked on the door. "Sorry." "Jesus, Farley, seriously?" Lucero hissed. "It wasn't like I had any control over it." "Get out." I could feel everyone's head swivel towards me as one. I could not shift my gaze from the door. "Get out now." "I said I'm sorry. It won't happen again, I promise." "Jeez." I just breathed. My head was pounding in time with my heart. "I am starting to get a migraine. I will try one more time if you will all get out. Leave. Now." "Farley, Wilkins, Thorne, come on everyone, let's go." Lucero issued the order quietly but firmly. "Sorry, Elise. We're leaving now, but we'll be right down the hall, okay? Go." I could feel Officer Wilkins' hesitation as everyone else started towards the door. "With the chairs. Take the chairs. Take everything. Out. This too." I stood up and, picking up my chair, I lifted it over the lid and set it down hard, shoving it across the room towards the door with one foot. "Whoa, okay, chairs too. Got it. Let's go, people. Now." "Elise?" Wilkins was still at my left shoulder. "Go," I answered quietly. "Are you just going to sit on the floor?" His voice seemed an equal mix of concern and disbelief. "Yes," I whispered, bending my knees to sit into the now comfortable tailor seat position I always had in the sanctuary. My eyes were already closing, a sense of peace and well-being washing over me. This was right. "Better," I whispered. I felt more than heard as people lifted chairs and quietly made their way out of the room. One presence to my left, the last to leave, his reluctance palpable as the door gently closed. I was alone, finally. I took a few slow, deep breaths, settling into my pillow in the sanctuary. The lid was clearly in my vision once again, but it was as if I could see it through the lens itself now. My field of vision was rounded, narrow. My hands held the lens to my forehead just between my eyes and slightly above the brow line. I was thrumming. It's the only way I can explain how it felt. It started as a faint vibration, almost a hum, as if a tiny motor had started suddenly up in my chest. The vibration began to spread outward through my belly and down my legs. My toes started vibrating. It washed up across my chest, through my shoulders, and down my arms. My hands were vibrating as they held the lens now. I wasn't shaking. This was more like a throbbing hum, a thrum. I was thrumming. I watched a black cloud begin to form in my field of vision. It wasn't solid, and it wasn't any particular shape. It was more like a nebulous, inky black cloud, a little bit like smoke, but more solid. Almost as if something physical was trying to form in a 3-foot space above the lid, in shades ranging from nearly black to absolute black in a constantly shifting amorphous mass. Suddenly, the entire vision flashed, an unbelievably bright red, as if a red sun had suddenly appeared and then just as suddenly disappeared. It didn't last for more than a fraction of a second, but the shifting black mass seemed to have the faintest tinge of red to it now. Or maybe that was an afterimage burned briefly onto my retina, if I was even seeing this with my eyes at this point. I didn't know and had no ability to give it more than a passing thought before I centered on the vision again. Another shockingly bred wreck. Flash! The mass was definitely tinging into the red spectrum at this point. It looked like nothing so much as old blood congealing in a red-black gooey mass. I felt faintly nauseous and took another deep breath to steady myself. An area about 3 feet in diameter above the lid now held a definite roundish shape. With each successive red flash, the mass turned brighter and brighter red. Flash! Flash! With a final 5th flash, the shape detonated in a brilliant white light, a spotlight going off in a closet, the entire room disappearing in light, the intensity of a sun. My head exploded. It was a small room with an unmarked door located next to the large conference room. A monitor showed in real time what a video camera was recording in the large conference room. Sometimes called the tech room, the shared wall held a standard one-way mirror, so those in the tech room could view the actual proceedings as well as watch what the camera was seeing. There was just enough room in this auxiliary room for everyone from the large conference room to crowd inside. All of the chairs, including 2 more that were usually in the tech room, had been hastily lined up along the wall outside in the hallway opposite the 2 doors. Lucero had ended up in the back corner of the tech room, farthest away from the monitor on its tiny table, but with a clear view through the window where he could see Elise sitting on the bare linoleum floor. The room seemed huge and empty around her. She can't be comfortable in there, he said quietly to himself. She seemed happy enough, Janet commented dryly from his right. Lucero started. He hadn't realized he'd said it out loud. Evidently. Farley was parked in front of the monitor, intent on what the camera was capturing. I just hope we get something here, Janet snorted. Hopefully. Wilkins was closest to the door, being the last to leave Elise. He hadn't wanted to leave her alone in there. Frankly, I'm a little concerned. Enough. Lucero thought he could just make out something above the box lid that sat on the floor a couple of feet in front of Elise, some kind of black something. What's that? Shut up, Farley, 3 voices hissed in chorus. Sorry, Farley muttered. Thought I saw something. You do, Lucero answered. Now shut up. Everyone's eyes were glued to the scene unfolding in the other room. They watched as a dark gray and black mass suddenly began to appear above the lid before Elise, shifting hues becoming more and more distinct. Suddenly there was a flash of brilliant red, gone the next instant. Everyone gasped and blinked, trying to clear their eyes. Another flash, then another and another. Suddenly the room exploded in a brilliant white light, blinding everyone. The monitor pulsed once with the same white light and then went black. A wave, like a sonic boom, hit them, knocking everyone backwards into the walls. Fuck! What the fuck was that? Goddamn, Farley, shut up! Voices yelled in unison. I can't see anything! Shut up! All of you! Lucero silently counted to 5, keeping his eyes tightly shut, waiting for the inside of his eyelids to fade from the brilliant, bright red after image. He squinted his eyes open the tiniest bit possible, but could still see only black. God damn it, am I blind now? He kept blinking and noticed the difference in the black between blinks beginning to change and then lighten. His heart felt like it would pound its way out of his chest. He took a breath of the now stale air in the room. Elise, someone whispered. Lucero heard the door open and looked over to see Wilkins heading out the tech room at a run. He called out and started to follow Charlie, pushing Farley out of the way, but stopped when something out of the corner of his eye caught his attention in the other room. Elise lay sprawled out on the floor, legs still crossed, arms thrown out, as if she'd been blown back by a heavy wind, the lens clasped in her right hand. He saw Charlie enter the room and drop quickly to his knees at her side, one hand grabbing her wrist and checking for a pulse, the other arm raised up to look at his watch, and he counted her breaths. Lucero stepped into the hallway as he made his way past Farley, still trying to bring the monitor back to life. Janet was glued to his side. Lucero poked his head through the doorway of the conference room, leaving Janet in the hallway behind him without a clear view inside the room. He could feel her feet shifting from foot to foot, trying to see around him to get a better view. She okay? He whispered to Charlie. I think so. Knocked out cold. She may have hit her head. I haven't checked yet. Vitals are elevated but stable. Pulse 88. Respiration 35. Sir? Has anyone called for assistance?